Sorry about the small people in the background as well. Right, we will just one more minute and then we'll get going, everyone. Okay, great. It looks like we've got a few people joining us online now. So hi, everybody. Welcome to show and tell number 11 from the team at Buckinghamshire and Unbox, Torchbox and Scroll as well, who've been helping us design and build this new website. Some of you have joined before. Sorry, I've left YouTube running in the background. That's better. Sorry, I've just had to silence myself. Right. So we're going to run through a few things. We've had quite a busy couple of weeks since the last show and tell. So we've got loads of stuff to show. We won't do too much talking this time. We'll probably just walk through a bunch of demos of things. So those of you who've been before, this is your chance to see what we've been working on. Give us some feedback on the things we've been doing. We've been trying our very best to follow an agile and user-centered approach all the way through. I think it's fair to say that the last couple of weeks have been quite challenging. Some of our usual practices have had to take a little bit of a backseat. We've not been able to do the same amount of kind of design, research and testing as we normally would, but we're definitely trying to find creative ways to make sure we still squeeze that in where we can and where it's still appropriate. So the job to do, which we talked about before, was to build a new website and all of the things that go around it, around the technology, content management systems, design approaches, content strategy, and so on. And with a goal of making this website easy for people to use, and particularly, with having in mind the fact we're going to have quite a few of our old websites around for a little while, albeit rebranded, which we'll show you, but minimizing any potential confusion, kind of dead ends or pathways that people might get themselves stuck in. So the last 2 weeks, colleagues are going to help demonstrate some of this stuff in just a moment. But we've been very focused on some kind of continuing work to add and improve coronavirus information. We've been working on a lot of homepage and navigation, particularly as we've made some quite fundamental changes to the way, particularly the old county council website works now. Lots of rebranding. So we have the 5 main corporate sites, but there's a whole host of microsites, extranets, internets, intranets, all the other nets that we've had to kind of make sure they look. Sorry, I've got little ones running around in the background. To make sure that they look right and fit with the new design approach. We've also got the job site live. We've got some new forms for helping people contact the council and make a complaint if they need to. Those are really neatly integrated with a backend system as well, which colleagues will walk through in a bit. And finally, getting some of the library's information published, which actually is really important right now. So a lot of the library's digital services we're particularly keen to make sure people know that they can still borrow lots of digital assets from the library while people are staying at home. So quickly over to a little bit of a demo, just showing you how things look now that we've rebranded, how some of the redirects between sites will appear. So the new website you will have seen before, and this is very live now. So we had to quite quickly progress from what was a private beta into a fully live site, and that has meant a very sudden kind of leap in terms of the number of people who are using this, and not unsurprisingly, a lot of the coronavirus information is kind of top of the charts at the moment. But one of the very recent changes is in how some of the kind of navigation works. So if we use the bin collection example again, so when a resident's trying to find out some information about bin collections, the things you've seen before were the way that we would filter people through to their local area. So some of our back office systems obviously are still as they were for the previous organisations. But now when we go to, for example, the Wickham page, you will see some nice new branding. So headers have all changed. They're now consistent with the design we have for the new council, albeit with some intentional difference. So we're using some slightly different colours in things like headers and footers to make sure that people know they're within an area-based site, and we're also using some quite clear call-outs in the header alert there as well to make sure people can always find their way back up to that top level domain, so we can jump our way back up to Buckinghamshire Council. And so that's a similar pattern for quite a lot of our services where we're looking to kind of redirect people. One thing that's been quite different, where we've had to put quite a bit of effort into doing some slightly more fundamental changes, is the way what is the old county council website now looks and works. So this is much more consistent with the new buckinghamshire.gov.uk brand. This is because what we've done here is effectively chop the head off the old website. So we've removed the old BuckCC website's front page and the first few levels of navigation as well. So now the only way into the old BuckCC pages, where we still have a lot of service information, there's still lots of work to do to bring this across, but the only way into those is now through the new homepage, or through Google and landing on a kind of a direct link. So you can see the old kind of design look and feel is still there, so we will maintain that so that again people know they're on an old bit of the website, and when we're through the other side of this coronavirus crisis, we'll add some more information in these alert banners to just let people know that they're somewhere different. At the moment, that's not the most important piece of information for folk, so we're kind of reducing the number of alerts we have in front of people's faces. But you'll see if we use the breadcrumb navigations, this previously would have connected you into bits of the old county council's website. If I click on education now, the team have done a fab job of lots of kind of redirect spaghetti to try and figure out what the right place to land people from any kind of given page on the website or any given breadcrumb link back into the most relevant section within the new website. So you can see there we've landed onto the schools and learning section with all the different bits of information that people might need there. So just the last thing, just to really quickly show you an example of one of our many and various microsites or kind of other specific service sites. So this is the adoption page. So this is one of the services we have for helping people understand whether adoption is right for them right now. And this is managed on a completely different platform, hosted and run by a different company. And we've got lots of these kind of, north of 30 probably between all the different old councils, where similarly we've had to kind of time the rebranding perfectly overnight on the 31st to make sure that those have all changed as well. And I think by and large we've got them all. I think there might be a couple still waiting for some final changes or approvals. I think we might have some small tweaks to make in the background in a couple of spots, but I think we managed to catch all of them and we didn't break anything, which is a huge achievement when you're pushing lots of changes to so many websites all at once. So back to the slides. So I think I've given you a quick tour of all the kind of the demos, the redirects, the branding. This is just a list of some of the other kind of different sites that we have that have all had to be kind of worked on and set up with the new branding. If folk do spot something, let the web team know. We're trying to kind of work our way through a bit of a priority list of things that maybe aren't still as ideal as we'd like them. So I mentioned at the top, another kind of important piece of work at the moment is getting the information around coronavirus into good shape. So we had to react very quickly, and that necessarily meant publishing lots of content, probably in a slightly different way to normal. So where we would usually want to do quite a bit of design research and testing with users to make sure that they're able to understand it and they're able to act on the information. In an emergency like this, speed is much more important than getting things absolutely right first time. So we published a ton of stuff incredibly quickly. The team have been working really hard with colleagues across all the different bits of the council services and partners in health and other organisations, who similarly have had an incredible amount of work to do over the last couple of weeks to try and work through what's most important for people. I think it's fair to say our process was a little bit of a backlog for a couple of days. We were a bit stuck. We were a bit of a choke point. So we quickly put a new process in place, a kind of agile light process of prioritization and sign off and clearance, so that we could just more quickly prioritize things and get them through an approval flow in a matter of hours instead of days, which kind of freed up a lot of time and got a lot of information published more quickly. So I think we're in a much better state here. I'm not going to do a complete tour of all this information because there's a fair bit in there now, but it's mostly focused around changes to the status of services. There's a lot of those happening at the moment. Lots of information that takes the shape of what's called a community support hub. This is language that's used fairly consistently across all councils in the UK. So there's tons of information in here. Framed mostly around helping others or getting help. So this is about how you might be able to volunteer, how you might be able to offer help as a local business. We've got some forms on there to capture some of that data. But also if you're in crisis, if you're struggling to get access to some of the things you need at home, maybe you need support with groceries, meals, dog walking, getting a prescription collected. There's some information in there about how to get in touch with people who might be able to help you. This will keep growing. So we've just added a huge bit of information for social care providers. We know providers of social care have some quite specific questions at the moment about policy and practice. So colleagues in adult services have given us lots of information to share there. So we imagine this will keep growing. I think one of the challenges we probably have now is we're wondering what's the point at which some of this information needs to find its way across the rest of the website and maybe sit more with some of the service level information, particularly if changes are going to be in place for a longer period of time. So that's something we can start to explore and look at the right ways of getting this information in front of people, again, in a way that they can act on. So we might have the opportunity to do a little bit more research to understand that fairly soon. Okay, so I think I'm going to hand it over to Lawrence now. So if I stop sharing my screen and Lawrence starts sharing his, this should be seamless.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can everyone hear me and see my screen?
I can.
Okay, we'll take that as everyone. Cool, thank you. So yes, I'm going to be demoing the Jobs and Career Service website, Find and Apply for a Job in Buckinghamshire. So this is the new site. It's live and on the internet. The team that have been working on it have done an incredible job of putting it all together. And it's now, it's available to view at jobs.buckinghamshire.gov.uk on that subdomain. Here's the homepage. I'm just going to kind of quickly whiz through what we've done and apply for a job or demo applying for a job. So we've got some information on the homepage about what it's like living and working in Buckinghamshire, about how it's a great place to live. And then also on the right-hand side, there's a bit more about what it's like working for the council. So what are the kind of benefits of working for Buckinghamshire, for example, pension and the culture, which are important to users. We've actually got a bit more information. If you click on this link, it links you to a page which has cards about all of those different kind of areas, which you can click on. And also, in the back end, the team can update this information if necessary. So, for example, if something changes here with work-life balance, flexible working hours change, this is all editable in Wagtail, which is what we're using for the content management system. So this is all updatable, including the pictures and everything. So that's the kind of the benefits of working for Buckinghamshire Council. Further down the page, we've got these job categories, and these again are customizable. So the HR team can, for example, choose the different categories or the different job areas that they would like to promote or organize in a way that is useful for them. So for example, we've got schools, social care, corporate roles, and these are integrating with the back-end system, which is where all the jobs are placed. And so, for example, in social care, you've got a number of different job groups that go into there, and that's, again, it's all customizable. So if you'd like to add a different job group to that group, that would be easily achieved. A good example might be in communities, which is made up, I think, of quite a number of different job groups. So, for example, jobs that are to do with libraries, parks, trades, they will all go in there. And then when you click one of these headers, it takes you through to the search results page, which will have those jobs kind of filtered by those categories. So this takes us on to, the search results. I guess there are different ways of finding a job that we've kind of been experiencing with users. You might search for teacher up here, and then that will give you a list. It'll filter on the right with all the different jobs that have teacher in the title or in the description. We can also clear that, and we can use these filters on the left. So these are kind of mapped to those groups on the front page. And then that will kind of filter those to those categories. You can also use the location search. So I'm going to put in this postcode that I've saved. And so now I'm searching for social care jobs, but also I'm filtering it through proximity to that location that I've put in that postcode. So that postcode, I should say, is an Aylesbury postcode. And so these jobs have now changed to be being filtered by Aylesbury first, and then Wickham and Chiltern later. So I think all that makes sense. What can I do next? Okay, so I'm going to do the job alert functionality. So you can save this filtering and get kind of regular emails when new jobs come in that are related to that filtering. So I'm just going to put put my email in there. Subscribe to job alert. That's gone through, and then I just go to my email. And okay, here it is. I get this little email through to my inbox with the codes that the filtering options that I put in, so the postcode and the category social care, and I can confirm or reject that subscription. And then now I've been confirmed. Cool. So the next thing to do, I guess, is to apply for a job, or to get to a point where I can apply for a job. So so the schools jobs don't have that application form, so I'm just looking for a job that isn't a schools job. Schools jobs are dealt with differently. I think you have to email directly to the school, so I'll go for this one, which does have the apply button. So this is a job advert. Has lots of information that are input by the HR team, and on the right we have some key details that are pulled out from the system, so things that you'd expect to see to be able to make a decision as to whether that job's kind of right for you. Some additional documents here which you may want to read before you progress, and then let's go ahead and get to the application form. So as you can see, those key details are kept on the right there just in case you need to reference them. We've got this functionality at the top where you can import stuff from your CV, so you can choose to find a Word document, and then that will then populate actually some of these form fields, which is quite interesting. I won't demonstrate that because it takes a bit of time for it to load up. So you've got an application form. I'm not going to go through this, but it's all styled consistently across all of the Buckinghamshire branding. So all the form fields have focus fields and the correct colors and fonts, etc. And then at the bottom, you can either submit and apply for the job, or you can save the progress. So what I'm going to do is just demonstrate that. This is a test. I can demonstrate that the save progress works. So I'm going to go put in my email. Cool, so that's been sent to my inbox. I can close that. And then you'll get an email from the recruitment site saying you've applied for this job. You can go back to the application, and it says resume application with an access code, and you'll get sent a little token which you can put in, which then hopefully, yes, saves the information that you've input. So that test bit of information is there. And so now I can go ahead if I'm ready to submit. But of course, there are a number of things I haven't put in, and those have come back as errors. So I need to fill all those in because they're required fields before I can progress. That's the job site in a nutshell. It allows everyone that visits the site to be able to find a job, see what the job's about, see the details about the job, and then apply for a job. It's all there and it's on the internet. I think the things to do next are there's a few kind of front end tweaks, and also we're thinking about, or the plan is to include some more filtering. So to use some of that data around sort of salary type, whether it's full-time or part-time, to be able to filter down more and more jobs. So you get a more precise search. I think that's it for me. I'm going to get out of here. Is someone ready to take over from me?
I will take over as soon as you stop sharing.
Okay.
There we go. So what I would like to talk about a little bit is the pages about contacting the council and making complaints and some other requests. So I'm just going to go quickly through the kind of things that we added on the new website. So previously we had still contact information for, linking to the old county council website. Right now we've kind of changed all of that information to be relevant for the new Buckinghamshire Council. So all the addresses, for example, like here, you can see that's all updated. So all this information is now updated for the new council. On top of that, we've also made some forms that allow people to contact the council. So for example, if they want to give feedback on the council services in some way, so if they want to make a complaint, just make a comment, or if they want to leave a compliment, they can use some of these forms. So we've made 6 forms in total that link into the back end system, which is called Aption Response. So it all goes straight into that system, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later as well. So just to show what these forms look like, so this is one of them forms. They are quite basic in the design, so we try to follow a lot of the kind of government design patterns to make these forms, because they've done a lot of user research on how to make forms work really well for users. So we're kind of relying on that a lot. So there are just some basic fields, and there's some contact information that you know, the user can leave so that we can get back in touch with them. I'm not going to fill in this particular form because this one would go into the live system, so I don't want to do that, but I will show on the test system a bit later. I just want to show, so this is the area for kind of complaints and comments and compliments, but there's another area that's also important that we've added, which is about requesting information from the council. So what these 3 forms on top of here allow you to do is they allow you to do freedom of information requests, they allow you to do disclosure requests, or they allow you to do subject access requests. But they kind of look quite similar, I suppose, to the form I just showed earlier. So all of these forms are slightly different, right? So they contain the fields that each of these forms really needs. So we've kind of worked together with the service to make sure that works really well for the service, and they get all the information they need. In some cases, we will still do additional work later. So in this case, for example, there is a need to email proof of ID, for example, and we want to allow people to be able to just upload that if possible, but that requires a little bit more work, which we will do at a later point. Now, just to show you what happens when you submit one of these forms, I'm going to show you this one, which is on the testing server that we use. So it's not going to go into the live system, but it's rather going to feed into the test system. So let me just show you. So if I start the form, so let's say I'm submitting this complaint for myself. I want to complain about the web designer. He didn't follow my feedback from user testing. So there we go. So it's complaining about something. What would you like to happen as a result? So I'll just say, follow my feedback, please. And you can also provide any relevant information. For example, if you have any reference numbers regarding other requests you've done before. And then you can also leave your your various contact details. So for example, there we go. I'm going to say my name. I'm going to say, maybe I want to be contacted by email. I'm just going to say test. And that's it. So if I choose a different contacts, if I prefer a different way to be contacted, then I can fill in the other bits. What we plan to do quite soon in the future as well, we want to make this kind of these additional fields hidden until you select something. So for example, if I select email, then I will see the email field. If I select letter, I will be able to see the address details, right? So I don't want necessarily the users to see all of these things at once. If I now click confirm and send, this should work. There we go. It didn't work because I forgot something. And that's actually a really good thing to show as well. All right, so something is not quite working. Okay, so because this is a test system, something is obviously not working. So I'm not going to be able to show you exactly how this works on the backend. But ideally, if this works, then it goes straight into the backend system, and the case officers can pick that up straight from here. And yeah, that should work for all the 6 forms. So we've tried it out a couple of days ago, so it should all be working on the live system. And that's it for me. I will stop sharing and pass over back to Ben.
Thank you, Boris, and thank you, Lawrence. Yeah, hazards of demoing on live or old systems. It is all working. Don't worry, folks. You can leave us compliments online to test it out. So last couple of things. So just also wanted to make sure we say thank you to the folks who are, I think, watching on YouTube, but not in presentation mode at the moment. So colleagues from Torchbox, Nick, Victoria, Jane, Helen, and my namesake Ben, who's recently joined the team as well for building all of this stuff. One thing I forgot to show that I'll quickly do now that Ben, our new member, has been working on, which is something that's a super important feature. It's not quite live yet, so we're still pointing people to the old Gov UK service for doing this. But we're just about to have a new way for people to find the area they're in based on their postcode. So for folks who are unsure which area, which of their old council areas they're in, they will be able to search. Ben has jumped straight in and done some work with the My Society API so that we can, for example, if we put the wrong thing in, it will return as invalid. If I search for my postcode, it will, he says confidently, there we go. It will tell me I'm in the Aylesbury Vale area, which is correct. And we can keep playing with that. He's also done some nifty little things so that if you don't put the space in for your postcode, it doesn't care. That's totally fine as well. If you search for something outside of the area, so if I go for my old address, it'll ask you to enter one that's within Buckinghamshire Council. And one of the particular things, so for those of you who are kind of geodata, kind of postcode nerds, one of the particular problems we have with using something like postcode to try and figure out where you are in an area is that a postcode search will basically picks the kind of centroid, the middle of a postcode area as the place, and postcode areas can cross boundaries. So that can be a little bit troublesome because it will pick one of the 2 or more places that you could be in based on the kind of center of that postcode area. So for one of the areas we have, so we have a list of postcodes. We know which ones are a little bit troublesome. There's no simple way of giving somebody the exact right answer. You would have to do a complete address lookup, which is something we can look at doing in the future, but that adds lots of extra steps for some users who don't need them. So short term, in terms of just getting people there quickly, if they really don't know, contacting the customer service centre is going to be the simplest thing there. There's something in the region of 4,000 households, I think, that this affects in the county one way or another. I had a chat with our customer services centre because I was intrigued, because we use the Gov UK service at the moment. If folks are confused from pre-April as to which their district council was, and we've never had a call from somebody who was given a postcode lookup this way who then had the wrong area. So it's a very small number of people for whom, where they would not know the area they're in and happen to fall on one of these boundaries and then happen to get the wrong result as part of this search. So it's a small number of folks who are affected. We think this is probably the neatest way of handling it for now, but we'll keep an eye on it. We can have a chat with colleagues about the number of folks who might be coming through still confused about that area. But yeah, really nice quick piece of work using a really lovely API from My Society. So thank you, My Society, for a beautifully documented API. That hasn't been the case with all of the things the team have had to build against. I'm not going to name and shame anyone because that'd be terribly unfair. But a good reminder for any teams, if you are able to influence the decision making on some of the platforms you might have to integrate with when you build these things, do try and do that. Do make sure that APIs have been written in a way that your developers are able to work with nice and easily, because we spent an awful lot of time, that was the royal we, working with something that was a little bit opaque, confusing, doesn't always do things the way that one might expect it, and the documentation just wasn't quite there. And that's a lot of time and effort. So last thing, we've hooked up some analytics. They're not, I think we talked about this in the previous show and tell. We're using a service called Fathom, which is a very kind of privacy aware service. It also doesn't give you an awful lot of data as a result of that. So the team will have to see how much information we really need, what's the right balance of kind of having analytics data versus qualitative research. If we feel a bit hamstrung by this service, like we're just not getting what we need, we will have a look at kind of other approaches we might take. But for now, we've just got some of the very basic information about kind of popular pages, where we're getting referrals from, types of devices folks are using, those kind of things. It does have the ability to create some goals, so we can add some additional bits of code into our site to track things like button clicks and certain kind of things that people might do on the website. So we can look at that another day to see if that gives us a little bit more visibility. But one of the nice side effects of that is we don't have to have an annoying cookie banner, because we are not using any nasty tracking cookies, which is a small victory. But we'll have a look another day and see if that gives us, as I say, all the things we need. So that is pretty much it from us. Super busy couple of weeks, I think, like everybody else. Really pleased to get everything over the line. And thank you to the whole team who did that and all the services that helped us. What's next? We carry on is the short version. So in moving quickly over the last few weeks, we have done some things in a potentially less than ideal way. So we are pretty sure we've got a little bit of what we call technical and design debt. Basically, these are things where we should go back, fix them, tidy them up, document them well, improve them where we can, so that they don't kind of lurk in the system for too long and be a bigger problem another day. So we will try and do that. We've got lots of improvements. Boris mentioned a few on the complaints system. I'm sure when we start using the job site, we'll learn some things about that as well. And then more generally across the rest of the site, we've got a few other small bits and pieces that would have been ideal to have for day one that maybe aren't quite there yet, that we'll get into the production site. So like that postcode search. And then some road mapping. So we need to kind of come back to the roadmap as it was, have a look at whether things on there are still priorities or not. The landscape has changed quite significantly, so we need to make sure that we're focused on the things that are most important, particularly with regard to the kind of coronavirus response. But we still have to, over the next kind of 18 months or so, bring across all the other bits of digital services onto this new platform. So we need to get out ahead of that roadmap and make sure that we've got a really good, clear plan for doing that, and that we're working with service colleagues to support that in the right way. And looking at things like where big decisions might be being made about some of the other technical platforms, some of the other back office systems that the new organization will be using for some of these kind of core services. So my little kind of the snags we had with some of the API documentation as an example, if we can influence any of that, it will make lots of people's lives a bit easier. So we'll probably look at how we can give some thought and input into what we've learned from the last few weeks. We need to do some retrospectives, plural. I think there's probably a big mega team one that would be great to do now that we're at quite a major landmark. But also we ran some small kind of sub projects within that. So working with the complaints team and jobs were examples of that, where I think it'd be great to sit down and just review how it went, what we learned. Certainly some of the work on the job site was quite hard. We weren't perfectly communicating with colleagues in HR all the way through that. Some of the things took us longer than expected as well as a result of some of that API work. So there's a lot of stuff we can learn there and make sure we apply to future projects to make things a little bit easier for ourselves and colleagues in services as well. And loads and loads of content. There's still tons and tons of content to work through and to kind of redesign and move across and shut down some of the old websites behind us. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Unless Boris, Lawrence wanted to add anything else. No, just
I think you summarized quite well.
We're there. So yeah, so thank you so much, everybody. Sorry we ran over a little bit, and sorry for the faffing around at the top of this, getting everything sorted. Next show and tell, 16th of April. We will have a recording of this one available as well, so we'll share that by email. So if colleagues who weren't here wanted to kind of watch and listen in, and do shout if you want to see slides or anything like that. We're always here to answer questions. So thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you all soon.